I just got back from a trip visiting my daughter and my granddaughter. It's a trip that would not have been possible even just 5 years ago. It wouldn't have been possible not because I couldn't afford it or because I didn't want to go. It wouldn't have been possible simply because my daughter and I were not on speaking terms. We had just come out of a long, many-year dispute, court dispute, over who was best capable of raising my granddaughter. And as you can imagine, when you reach the end of that, we had come to an agreement, but the hard feelings still existed, over the multiple motions, court appearances, petitions, and the several thousands of dollars that we both spent trying to make each other look in the worst light possible to a court. It was difficult to communicate. Shortly after this whole thing was resolved is about the time when I started to go through my process of reevaluating my life, rethinking the way I thought things. And I was able to see at that time that I recognize this pattern of not communicating and the hard feelings and such. And I recognize that in my own experience with my own parents several decades earlier. Not the same circumstances, but the same result. Heels were dug in, sides were chosen, there was no communication. A day turned into a week, turned into literally 10 years or more. And during that time of not communicating and not speaking, I lost my sister. My sister passed away without me being able to reconnect with her, my oldest sister. And then about a year and a half after my sister passed away, my mom passed away. Again, not being able to reconnect. So there was a real cost to me, and that regret started to build, and it really started to identify how I felt about myself over the next several years. Bad son, bad brother, bad person. But when I started to go through that reinvention process that I talk about here in my mid-50s, I was able to recognize that pattern, and I could see how that pattern would repeat itself, and now what was going on with my own daughter. And I remember feeling, I just don't want this to happen again. I don't want this same thing to repeat itself for me. I didn't want to lose any more time that I had already lost with my daughter. And I didn't want my daughter to feel that same regret that I had been feeling about losing time with my own parents and seeing my sister and my mom pass away without being able to reconnect. So I knew I had a choice. I could choose to let the same pattern repeat itself, roll the dice, see if anything would ever improve on its own, or I could think differently, I could act differently, and I could be different in this situation. So I called her. And what came out of that conversation was a recognition. At the end of the day, we both had the same goal. We wanted my granddaughter, her daughter, to grow up being healthy, happy, secure, and feeling like she was loved. And you know what? We did it. We succeeded. And during that time of just simply reconnecting with her, I was able to name the pattern of regret that I had experienced prior in my life, and knowing that I needed to do things differently. I know we all have regrets. You can't be our age in 50s and 60s and 70s and not have some type of regret in your life. I think it's what we do with that regret. You can either carry it around or let it carry you like a giant weight that you just can't shake, or you can decide to do something about it. I decided to take the regret that I had experienced previous in my life and to do something different, to recognize the pattern and to understand that I had a choice, that I can make a different path for myself just by thinking differently in ways that I had never thought before. So from a trip that just a few years ago would not have been possible to today, where my daughter and I get along better than we ever have before in my life. We text almost every day. We talk several times a week. We have plans for the future. And as far as my granddaughter goes, she will be 18 later this year, happy, well-adjusted, going into nuclear engineering. So what we both wanted to accomplish, we did. What I would say to you here today is there a regret that you can start to think differently about, that you can respond differently about? It doesn't have to be something major or fantastical. It can be something simple. But can you at least start the thinking process of trying to make a different decision, having different thoughts, to be different, to act different? I think if we can change our relationship with regret and use it as a tool to further us, as opposed to an anchor, something that keeps us stuck and weighs us down, it can have impacts in your life that you can't even imagine right now. Thank you for taking a few minutes to watch the video. And if you're curious about how this whole reinvention process started for me, I'm going to go ahead and link the Dark Night of the Soul video down below, and that'll give you an idea as to where everything started. Thank you, and I'll see you again soon.